Hey YouTube, it's Reese Sheehan. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on my videos. And madams and messieurs, please don't forget to click the notification bell. In a continuation of our The Matrix series, The Lies We Are Continuously Told, today we're going to discuss food. Food in particular, what's being added to our foods. Obesity is an issue now. In the last, 15, 20 years. Why is that? Our ancestors didn't have the same issues, but they ate almost the same foods. There's some key ingredients, however, that are missing, and we're going to discuss those key ingredients today. So we talked about body fat last week. We talked about how our bodies are designed to hold on to fat, that adipose tissue that is the organ, is an organ that protects our other organs like our kidneys and our liver. Now, this organ can accentuate key areas of the female body. I know that for sure, being a female. It is an energy repository and a marvel of evolution. So, as I say that, there are a couple of different fats. Visceral fat is the fat that you have to watch out for. Visceral fat, if you have it, and you'll know you have visceral fat, they say that you tend to pack on visceral fat around your midsection. That is the fat that can cause you to be insulin resistant. And then that's considered a precursor to type 2 diabetes. The question is, again, what foods are we eating that cause us to put on visceral fat, to pack on the pounds? Now, is it just because we found ourselves in a more sedentary environment? Because a lot of our jobs are desk jobs. So I can't say that. That's been my primary career path. My career path is tended to be more desk job oriented. Not everybody's job is that way, though. But then now I see people that are considered, who would be considered obese, and they're in jobs that they have to be moving constantly, and yet they're still obese. So is it really how much movement we're getting, or is it the quality of food that we are eating? Now, back in the day when our ancestors were hunter-gatherers, they had different ways of preserving the food. So, again, when did we start putting on all this weight? Our hunter-gatherer ancestors from all walks of life, from every different nationality, they were hunter-gatherers. We all, at some point, our ancestors were. They didn't have, didn't have any way. We don't have a way to go back and say, well, did you have problems like we do as far as medical? But let's go back to, I can go back to my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was a thin woman. She cooked a lot of her food. She didn't use a lot of preservatives. A lot of stuff was by scratch. She made a lot of foods from scratch. So, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it, to me, lends into this particular slide. So the preservation of food, it's an old practice. Ancestors used vinegar, salt, fermentation, and drying, which we still do. Some populations still use those as a way to preserve food. But in the 1700s, that's when the preservation of food took a matrix turn. Now, some changes were revolutionary, like when Louis Pasteur came up with pasteurization, but others weren't so much. So, in watching this video on YouTube called Poisonous Victorian Foods, a doctor discussed how the Victorian foods from the Victoria era were adulterated. So one of the things that was used commonly in milk was borax. And borax, if you know what borax is, people use borax to to clean floors, wash clothes, kill insects. Well, they were using it in milk to neutralize the smell and taste of spoiled milk. But what they weren't trying to figure out was why the milk would go bad. Well, there was several different bacteria that were responsible, but one of which was bovine tuberculosis. So that particular tuberculosis didn't affect your lungs. It affected the other organs, so it would go undetected. They figure just by doing some of the numbers and some statistics that at least 100,000 children back in that day were killed because they drank milk that was borax had been used to mask the taste, the sour taste. It would neutralize the sour taste and smell. Because again, and why would they use that? Why would they use borax? So they could still sell the milk. It was about making a profit. So 100,000 children died so that somebody could make a profit. Now let's look at bread. Bread is a main staple. Bread has been around since ancient Egypt. Okay? Every nationality, every indigenous population has some form of bread. But now if you look on the left-hand side, there's the store-bought bread. There are 11 ingredients in that store-bought bread. You look on the right side, there's 5. So when my great-grandmother, when she cooked, again, she only would cook from scratch. She would not buy food from the store. She might buy vegetables and fruit, but she wouldn't, and she, of course, she would buy meat, depending, because she could get, like, one of my other grandmothers had a chicken, raised chickens, and she would kill chickens and eat the chickens off like that she raised. She was another one that would only cook from scratch. She would not cook anything that was not what was store-bought, unless it had to be like raw. But anything that was processed, my great-grandmothers would not eat. And neither one of them, they lived to be, both of them, I think one lived to in her 90s, the other one lived to be 105 or 106. Now let's go to my grandmother. My grandmother did not fix food from scratch a lot. She had 7 kids. She worked. My grandfather worked, my grandmother worked. You having 7 children, going to the store is a lot easier than trying to fix food from scratch. Well, she died in her 70s, and she died from diabetes, complications of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. She had diabetes for a long time, as long as I was alive. And she didn't eat well. She ate bad foods. She ate a lot of processed foods. Another thing I want to share, my great-grandmothers, they used to pickle everything. So there was pickled pig feet. Pickled pig feet. Wasn't processed pig feet. It was pig feet that they pickled. They bought pig feet and would brine it, put them in a brine, and it would be pickled after a certain amount of time. But they used a lot of natural foods and natural, a lot of herbs and natural spices. They did not cook. They didn't use a lot of they didn't eat a lot of processed foods. But I watched my grandparents, their children, my great-grandparents' children, eat bad foods and die earlier than they did. Now, like I said, my grandmother passed from diabetes too, from complications of diabetes, some type 2 diabetes. But during my research, I found articles that talked about these common food preservatives, that they're used in more than just bread. They're used in other baked goods, processed meats, processed foods, whey, and other dairy products like cheese. Okay, so there's 2 of these in particular. One of them is propionate, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly either. But it's a naturally occurring fatty acid. It's produced in the gut. Now, but I'm not sure of how are they getting this naturally occurring fatty acid? That's in which gut are they getting this from? But anyway, in a new study, researchers have found that feeding mice low doses of this naturally occurring fatty acid, cause weight gain and resistance to the hormone insulin, which causes insulin resistance, and which in humans, as I say, is a precursor to type 2 diabetes. So when researchers gave healthy adults this naturally occurring fatty acid, it spurred a release of blood sugar raised hormones. Yeah. And this is just one preservative that's put in so many different staples, food staples, meat, other baked goods, cheese, and bread. The other one is BHT. I'm not going to try to pronounce that word, but BHT, it's commonly added to cereal and other foods. So, I mean, it can cause, and what it's in this article, it says it produced some of the strongest detrimental effects, said investigator. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. The problem these days is that most foods we eat contain some level of this preservative, says dietitian Catherine Hawkins. So these two, the first article I pulled up was could common food preservative make people fat? The other one is how preservatives can make us gain weight. So we have food. We have our food that has been altered by preservatives and additives. I mean, these are just two that I've named. They can be found in baked goods. One can be found in cereals. The other one can be found in bread, cheese, processed meat. And here we are eating this. So if these, they're added to staples, food staples that most people can afford. These people can afford those. But if you can't, but you can't afford, and that's not what I want to say. You don't see those same preservatives and additives in more expensive foods. Whole Foods, I don't even think Whole Foods would allow any of their suppliers to have any kind of, I would be shocked if you could go into a Whole Foods and find any of those preservatives in any of the products that they sell. That's their whole shtick. Whole Foods. But for a more candid and truthful look at the food industry, watch the following. Now, I'm going to tell you the one I've watched. Food Inc. Oh my gosh. Food Inc. blew my mind. How our food, not only the preservatives that are added to our food, but how our food is tainted by just laziness and disregard. All for profit. The other four I haven't seen. The one I want to see on this list is Hungry for Change. The description of this one says that it centers around a documentary that says that the weight loss industry is really not trying to help you lose weight. And I agree. They're not. Excuse me, they're not. They really aren't. They make money off of you being overweight, having too much energy. Because that's all fat is stored energy. They make money off of you having too much stored energy. And it is just amazing to me how these are multi-billion-dollar industries. Diet and nutrition, multi-billion dollars. Exercise. We're not just going to the gym. Exercise equipment, exercise attire, tennis shoes, water bottles. I'm not trying to be petty. Down to water bottles. But somebody's making a profit off of that. Somebody is making a profit off of everything that the Matrix tries to tell you is wrong with you. Because you have too much adipose tissue. Therefore, not only, and it's interesting because, like I said, when people were coming at Lizzo, they were talking about Lizzo doing too much and all this good stuff. And then Jillian Michaels and her opinion. And my thought was, again, If she didn't have so much fat on her body, y'all wouldn't care. You would not care. The next part of our series is going to be on the thought culture. And that's why I bring, if Lizzo had less adipose tissue, or had adipose tissue, less adipose tissue around her waist, more adipose tissue on her back and in her front, and her breast and in her behind, you would be prayed that, because now unfortunately the Matrix has lulled us into a sense of thinking the thought culture, and that thought being that hole over there, that culture is the culture for us. That's the new culture, and we should embrace it. And no, but we're going to talk about that in next week. So the Matrix food preservation or preservatives model. So you're going to sell to the masses. You're going to sell masses food that packs on the pounds, keeps them malnourished and hungry for more. Pop is a great example of that. Pop is literally sugar water with flavor. People can't get enough of it. You can't imagine how many tablespoons of sugar is in one serving, not a cup, a serving of pop. A serving of pop. And most people don't just drink one serving of pop. The natural food model. So you're going to sell the masses quality food at affordable prices. That's not the Matrix. The Matrix would rather sell you crap and make a huge profit than sell you quality and have you be healthy, because other industries depend on you being unhealthy. That's the Matrix. I mean, there are just too many industries that exist because of the lies we are continuously fed. And it's amazingly horrible. All the lies that we're told, all the lies that we're sold, and all the lies that we buy, hook, line, and sinker. It is time for us to unjack from the Matrix, to see it for what it is, instead of looking at it as if it's reality. It's not. It's really not. This year, what I want to do is grow my own vegetables. Find a patch of garden. It may not be in my backyard. I want to, they have all these neighborhood gardens that you can buy in my neighborhood, or in my city, that you can buy a plot and you can grow garden, and it's protected, so you can grow vegetables and things of that nature. I want to learn how to make things from scratch instead of buying so much from the store that is just processed food, and it's no good. In conclusion, fat comes from something. It comes from somewhere. We don't get fat just by, if you stuck down to 1,200 calories, they swear up and down, you'll lose weight. I've done less than that, and I guarantee you that the weight I lost, I turned around and gained it within a month. So there's more to it than that. We have to look at the food that we are eating. We have to look at the quality of food. We have to figure out how to make a change in that. We cannot accept or expect the Matrix, which is definitely a part of the government. We can't expect them to solve our problems. They're not going to. Look who is president. That's all I have to say. We have to be able to be strong enough to decide that this is enough. As that line in that movie Network goes, I'm mad as hell and I'm not taking it anymore. But it's not, I'm mad as hell and I'm waiting for you to solve my problem for me. No, it's, I'm mad as hell and I'm ready to solve my own damn problems. I'm ready to stick up for myself. I'm ready to stand up and do what's best for me. Not looking to someone else outside of me to determine my health, my wealth, my stature. Our quality of food is up to us. You see all these government regulations that have been literally destroyed by this current administration. People have been getting sick from trying to eat healthy. It's time for us, because of those government regulations being removed. And now these companies are using horrible products that are causing all kind of issues. And it's time for us that's enough. We need to grow our own. We need to remind remind the Matrix. The Matrix doesn't exist without us. But really the goal is to destroy the Matrix, one person at a time. Start with yourself. I start with me. I'm sharing my impression or my opinion of what I see. And to me, whenever a whole system or several systems is built on a lie that somebody profits from, there can't be nothing but the trick of the enemy. The trick of the enemy. Thank you for joining me for the second part of my series. Au revoir, mon amis.